march on here on Mountain West Men's Basketball Media Days 2021. Bridget Howard, Jesse Kurtz. We are now into our 10th stop on our 11 campus tour. We head north to the high plains of Laramie, Wyoming to bring in the head coach of the Wyoming Cowboys, Jeff Linder, who is in his second season at the AA at the University of Wyoming. Coach, it's great to see you. It's much better circumstances, obviously, than last year when you take over a job and then kind of everyone's trying to piece together a season. How different are things for you now than they were, say, a year ago?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an understatement. I mean, after, you don't realize what you kind of are going through until you kind of look back, and it's just a testament to my coaching staff, the support staff, the administration, our players, to be able to navigate that, especially being a first-year head coach and getting the job about 1 week before the pandemic really hit. And so for us to kind of have some sense of normal and actually now be able to do some of the things that we would normally do in terms of being able to practice 5-on-5 and do some of the things that helps you build the habits that are required to compete in this league at the top half. And so looking forward to some normalcy. Hopefully we will see that and just keep moving forward.
If you have a question for Coach Linder, we would encourage and welcome your participation from the media. Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you in queue and get you ready to ask some questions. You got 9 players returning from last year's team, Coach, and that consistency, I would imagine, has aided you in getting ready for this season, but probably has you excited as to what you guys can achieve because of those returners and what they achieved last year.
Yeah, I'm excited about the group we got coming back. I mean, last year I thought we were playing really well towards the end of the season when we actually had our full roster. Having gotten the job right before COVID, I didn't want to fill the entire scholarship limit, and so we were at 11 scholarship guys most of the year, and Graham Ike doesn't get eligible, or he gets cleared physically from his torn ACL in January. And so we had a lot of times we had 8-9 guys in practice. So to be able to have 15 guys now, to be able to play 5-on-5, and we played a lot of 5-on-5, maybe too much right now, but those are some of the things that we had to kind of get back based off of what happened last year. And so I'm really looking forward to this group. The problem is that with the COVID year, my group is still, last year I think we were the 6th, 7th youngest team in the country. That's not going to change. And so my young guys got to grow up in a hurry, especially in a league that I've been associated with in one way or the other since about 2010. And I think the league is probably as deep as it's probably been during that time.
Encourage you to get in the queue early to participate with Coach Linder. Let's go to Cody Tucker with the first question from 7220 Sports.
Hey, Jeff. Just curious about Dang Dutt and how you found out about him and what kind of drew you to him.
Well, I mean, one, he was playing at, probably historically the best junior college, school in the country at College of Southern Idaho, which when I was at Boise State was only a couple hours down the road in Twin Falls. And one of my former GAs and managers at Boise State, Ryan Lundgren, is one of the assistant coaches there. And so he was the one that kind of put us on to him. Didn't think we were going to need a point guard, and then things happened to where late we needed one, and for us to be able to get a player like Dang, a first-team junior college All-American, in the springtime, which is always hard to do. And it's a credit to Dang, too, who knew that he needed the right fit, where a lot of times, especially in the springtime with junior college recruits and one of the stature and had the accolades that Dang had, a lot of times, they get really over-recruited, and he knew he had to find the right fit and the right level, and we're lucky he did that. And like all junior college players, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but he's a guy that's really smart, and he'll figure it out sooner than later, and we expect big things from him.
Next question for you, Coach, comes from Josh Criswell from WYO Sports.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the youth on your roster. How big have some of those older guys like Hunter Maldonado, Thompson just been in kind of helping some of those younger guys along and getting them up to speed at the college level?
Yeah, they've been huge. In order to have guys that, in those guys' cases, have been here for 5 years, and they've been through a lot of things, and so for them to be able to, just to guide and mentor them, not just on the court but off the court as well. Those guys, they're a huge part of hopefully our success in trying to have success sooner than later. And the thing you can count on those guys is they bring it every single day. They're great in the classroom. They're great kids, and those are the type of guys that we want to build the program around. And for the young players to see that, that only helps your cause.
We'll now move on to Ryan Thorburn from the Casper Star-Tribune.
Jeff, I was just curious. You have, I think, 4 guys out in the spring degree. Just what's the health of your team right now going into as you get closer to playing games?
Well, luckily we're not playing games right now because, we definitely have a few guys banged up. Hopefully by the time November 10th rolls around that we'll be at full capacity, which I'm expecting to be. But in this day and age, I mean, every day you're always wondering. But as of right now, we have a few guys that are out, dinged up. But I think here, hopefully, like I said, the next couple of weeks, we should have most of the guys back, and I do expect to have our full roster come November 10th. I mean, felt like November 10th was a long ways away, and then you look at it, it's going to be here before you know it. But luckily, we do have some time, so we can get some of these guys back healthy and get them back on the floor.
I'm sure you don't care what the media pecking order is in this league, but this getting picked 8th, tied with New Mexico, does that speak to how far you guys have to come in your second year, or just that depth you're talking about in conference?
Yeah, I don't really take too much stock into the media poll. Now, also too, perception is reality, and that's our job as a program is to to actually prove it during the season and to prove that we are a program on the rise. I don't necessarily agree with where we were picked, but that's doesn't really matter. As in the long run, it's where we finish come March, and I think that if we can keep the right guys healthy and continue to get better, that I feel like that we can compete with anybody in the league.
If you've got a question for Coach or a follow-up, please make sure to raise your hand. We'll now go to the San Diego Union Tribune for Mark Ziegler.
Coach, as a follow-up to that, if you don't agree with where you were picked, where would you pick yourself?
Well, that's a good question.
You walked right into that.
Yeah, I did. I walked right at it. I said, either you or Grammer was going to probably ask that question. That's a good question. I mean, I thought that we were playing really well towards the end of last season, and especially when we had our full roster, when Kenny Foster got back, and then Graham Ike. So I do think that, like I said, Colorado State was picked first, and we were in one possession games with them. San Diego State, we took them down to the wire in the end when we had a full roster, even though those first 2 games, as you well know, we were well educated on what it's like to play in the Mountain West, and especially on the road. But and then you look at Nevada, who's picked 3rd, and we got them twice here. I know one of their players wasn't playing, but at the same time too, I mean, we didn't have a full roster as well. And so I feel like we can compete with anybody, and I do think that it's a different year. I mean, last year with COVID and a lot of it had to do when you played guys, and there were some teams that got the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes there were some teams that didn't, but I do feel like that we can compete with the upper half of the league. Where we'll finish, I don't know, but I look forward to seeing what happens towards the end.
Thanks.
We'll now go to John Teetle from Hoops HD.
Good afternoon, Coach. You mentioned Kenny. He had a really weird season in terms of he was arguably your best scorer at the start of the season, and then he dropped off and had a little resurgence, and then an injury. He also turned himself from, frankly, a terrible three-point shooter into a great three-point shooter in the course of 1 year. So what sort of expectation you have from him after such a crazy season last year?
Well, if we can get him healthy, then I have a lot of expectations for him. I mean, right now he's he's injured, but hopefully we'll have him back soon. But he's a guy that, having watched him in high school and then having played against him when I was at the University of Northern Colorado, I knew he was better than the 19% shooter that he was his freshman year. I mean, I think a lot of that had to maybe do with shot selection. But he was a guy that, during the course of the summer, the season, in terms of shooting workouts in practice, I mean, he's a guy that shoots it at almost 50% in practice. So I think it was just a matter of giving him the confidence and also putting him in position to where he was getting shots that he could make. And so I expect a lot from him, not just from making shots, but from a leadership standpoint, his feel for the game. He's a guy that, I think that's probably our strength of our team with our top 7, 8 guys, is that I do think that we're really smart. I think we can do a lot of different things on the fly. We have the ability to adjust, and I think Kenny's intelligence, I think that's what we missed there in that stretch when he got hurt against Nevada, was just having that guy where you knew that over the course of the 50 or 60 possessions he was going to play, and especially on the defense end of the floor, that he wasn't going to make very many mistakes. And so he's a big part of who we are and what we're doing, and we need him back here sooner than later.
Coach, your next question comes from David Graff, the Wyoming News Now.
Hey, Coach, how are you? I just want to ask, how are you feeling heading into your second year at the helm in Laramie?
Well, I'm feeling good, trying to stay warm. I wasn't expecting the snow to come on October 13th, but other than that, I think just really excited because we actually are back to normal and we're able to practice the way that I'm accustomed to practicing, and having the ability to play a lot of 5-on-5 and get up and down, some of the things that just we weren't able to do last year. And so I think with that, you're going to see, hopefully defensively, I think that's where we got to make a big step forward in order to compete at the top half of the league, and something that we've been working on, and hopefully we'll continue to get better as the season goes on. But as of right now, things are good, and it's time to play somebody else, and looking forward to playing somebody else here sooner than later.
Go back now to Josh Criswell of Wyoming Sports.
Hey, Coach, obviously your first season here was anything but normal. I guess my first question for you is, how much different was your first year here as opposed to maybe what a first year would be like at a different place during a normal year? And also, how excited are you to finally see full crowds at Arena Auditorium?
Well, I guess I'm a sucker for punishment. Probably like Andy Dufresne trying to crawl through a river of crap to come out clean on the other side. UNC, it was probably, take away COVID. UNC, I walked into a situation where I had a postseason ban because of the previous coaching staff. Had a loss of a lot of scholarships, a loss of a lot of recruiting days. We walked into a complete mess, and possibly even a 2-year postseason ban. So I knew what I was getting to myself there. But, there's no excuses. And just like here, I knew what I was getting myself into. But I know that from a resources standpoint, a facility standpoint, and just the pride that the state of Wyoming has, in the University of Wyoming, that's a big reason why I'm here. And I think, for us and the team that we have, and to be able to put that team together, during a pandemic, not being able to go out and recruit, not being able to practice, I do think that we've definitely come a long way in a short period of time. And so we got to continue to get better, continue to grow. But I do think to be able to have all those fans back in the AA, and I think there is an excitement behind this team as, we're excited to get in there and prove that it is one of the toughest places in the country to play.
Jeff Graver from the Albuquerque Journal.
Damn it, Mark already got my question about where you pick yourself, so I'll go to something else. You're obviously a coach that I think some people who follow the analytics and all that, people identify you as one of those guys that certainly plays the analytics game a little bit, and tries to build your team around what the stats and what the numbers show. What's the one stat, either, I don't know, I know Ken Palm's kind of the basic site, but what's the one stat that if things go right this year, you're looking for, that maybe defines what you want to find as successful for your team? If there was one stat people follow, what would it be?
Well, maybe I'll ask Ken when he comes to practice tomorrow, since he'll be here at about 9 o'clock. Being a former Wyoming alumni, I think he's being honored this weekend. So I think I'm going to have to sit down with him and figure out where exactly we need to get better. But I do think, based off of who we are and how we recruit. Offensively, we're always going to be really good because, we're going to recruit guys that can pass, handle, and shoot and have really good feel. And so offensively, I'm not worried about that. But defensively, in order to compete, in this league, your field goal percentage defense, your defensive efficiency, your defensive rebounding, those are the obvious ones, just like everybody else. And so for us to make a jump, which, I've reminded my guys on a daily basis, we're going to have to, our identity, which, I think sometimes my identity as a coach sometimes is on the offensive end. But if you looked at our teams at Northern Colorado, we were elite defensively in a lot of areas. And so for us to be a top 100 team, to be a top 50 team in the country at this level, you got to be able to do it on both ends of the floor. So we better be pretty good offensively, and you better be pretty good defensively if you want a chance.
Do you think it oversimplifies things a little bit to sort
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's shooting a lot of threes. I mean, I'm not big on shooting a lot of threes. I'm big on shooting the right threes, and I think that's something that we educate our guys a lot on, is that what the right three is. I mean, it's some guys will just shoot threes, but I want guys that make threes, and in order to make threes, as I know, in terms of being a numbers guy or being a guy that watches a lot of film, I mean, there's certain threes that you get paint touch threes and you create rotation threes, your percentages are going to be a lot higher. I mean, Kenny Foster is a 20% three-point shooter if he's shooting non-paint threes all season long. But last year he was shooting paint touch threes, rotation threes, and now he's shooting 40%. So, threes are big, and defending the threes are big. But at the same time, too, I mean, we want to try to create paint touches and keep the other team out of the paint.
Coach, next question comes from Tracy Ringlesby from Welcome 7220.
Coach, if you addressed this earlier in the opening minutes, I apologize, I was having some problems, but how much of an advantage can you see for your players to know that people don't think you can finish very high in the conference? Can that be a motivation?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much our players really look at it, and I mean, I guess we could tell our players, but our guys know that we can compete with anybody. But also too, I mean, it can't be woulda, shoulda, coulda. Can't hope, as I tell them all the time. Hope's not a strategy. So we just come out every day and try to get better one day at a time. And we have enough talent to where we can beat anybody in the league. But also, if we're not right, then we also can lose to anybody in a league. And I think that's the way the league's going to be this year. I mean, I think there's a lot of parity from the top to the bottom, and so. If you're not ready to go, and if you're not really ready to put in the work that's required to be a really good team in this league, then you're going to get smacked in the face. But motivation, I'm not sure. I mean, every day. I mean, hopefully, if they're not motivated by just showing up every day and playing in one of the best leagues in the country, that you're at the wrong level.
Do you see any of the freshmen get significant playing time, or is it more of a learning experience for them?
Well, it's I guess you're probably talking about true freshmen as opposed to COVID freshmen. I mean, if you're looking at COVID freshmen, I mean, still got probably the 6th, 7th youngest team in the country. But in terms of the actual freshmen that came in, probably as of right now, I mean, they're probably not in the rotation. But I do think that Noah Reynolds is a player that from a body standpoint is capable of playing. We'll see, once we kind of get into things. And then Ben Bone and Nate Barnhart are both, players I think have, a lot of upside and a really bright future, but, also new too when coming into that based off their body and their weight that, they probably are going to need a year to kind of get acclimated to things. So as of right now, I mean, we're not having to rely on, a true freshman, but, I also have a bunch of COVID freshmen and sophomores that will be playing a lot of minutes.